What's up, YouTube? My name is Derek Peterson. I'm with Saturday Out West, our Pac-12 site. The guy joining me today I was about to point again. I point every single time and I always get it wrong. The guy joining me is Spenser Davis with Saturday Road, our ACC site. Spencer, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm pumped to talk about this Miami team.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Miami win total today. We're going to kind of go through the schedule, break down. Spencer's very high on the Hurricanes for 22. So, like, let's start with I think the main reason why you are super excited about Miami, and that would be quarterback play in a conference that looks like it's going to have some really good quarterbacks. Miami seems to have one of the strongest in the league. Is that
Yeah.
is that is that fair to say that that's why you're so high on Miami because of Tyler Van Dyke?
Yeah, I mean, it's Tyler Van Dyke. It's also Jalen Knighton, the running back, who was awesome last year. It's also Mario Cristobal he's bringing a certain level of competence, right? I mean, Josh Gaddis is the offensive coordinator. Um, they hired two great defensive, co-DCs and Kevin Steele and Charlie Strong. Like, there is a level of competence right now with this Miami football program that hasn't been there in a while. They had a great cycle in the transfer portal. Got a few guys. They're working on at least one more this week in a receiver named Jalen Robinson who could make an impact. And I don't see that many weaknesses on this team, other than maybe you could say the defense is a little bit unproven, and they do need to find some consistency at receiver. But just all the way around, this Miami team, I think, has built itself up to where it's going to have a pretty high floor. And then how good Tyler Van Dyke is going to determine its ceiling.
Yeah, I think there was that brief pocket of time there where it looked like Miami was having trouble finding coordinators, where Cristobal was having trouble finding some people.
Yeah.
But like this collection of coaches that he's brought in on his staff, like getting Gaddis is a big deal. Like that's
Getting
a really,
Gaddis,
really
yeah.
good get. And then
he won the Broyles Award last year.
Yeah, I mean, he could, if they have a really good season and Tyler Van Dyke is like a Heisman guy, like people think he could be, like he might be in contention to win it again.
Yeah, he certainly could be. Like Van Dyke, I think if Miami has as good a season as I think they're going to, win 9 to 10 games, he's going to be in the mix for the Heisman. I wouldn't predict him to win it. If you're a betting man or woman, I would say, maybe there's a little bit of value in the futures market there, but it also may not, it's going to be tough, right? Like to win the Heisman, you pretty much got to go undefeated, have one loss. And this Miami schedule is hard, right? Like this, they have to go play at College Station in week 3, which is not a fun place to play. FanDuel actually released some early lines for a few games this week, and that is one of them. And Miami is a 9-point underdog in that game, which seems crazy because FPI would have A&M favored by half a point on a neutral field. So I'm not sure, again, if you have a FanDuel account, want to place a bet, I would say there's some value on Miami there. I think by the time we get to week 3, that spread will be a little bit lighter. But it's going to be an interesting year 1 for Mario Cristobal. Expectations are certainly high, and when I look at the schedule, I mean, there's a few tough games on here, right? A&M, Florida State, Pitt. You got to go play at Clemson. Those are all tough games. Everything else seems pretty winnable. I mean, they've got a pretty high floor as far as the schedule goes. I see 8 games here that you should probably win. Maybe you only go 7-1 or maybe 6-2. But I think that winning 10 games is within reach here if the right players make the right steps.
As you look at this schedule, what feels like a trap game? Like what jumps out to you as like, that could be a little weird.
I think I guess trap game, right? So like A&M and Clemson are obviously, those are going to be tough. Like that's probably a couple losses, right? And neither of those are trap games. Like we know about them.
Yeah.
I would say, anytime you go to Virginia Tech is a little bit intimidating, and that crowd is going to be rocking. Now, the good thing is for Miami is they play Duke the next week, so they shouldn't have any, look ahead situation there. And, just overall their non-conference schedule, Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss, Middle Tennessee, other than A&M, right, is not too difficult. So I don't see anything there. I do think North Carolina is a team that could end up surprising people after how disappointing they were a year ago. And, they lose Sam Howell. I think people have written them off a little bit, but they're,
I am people. I have written them off. I thought they were going to be a college football playoff team and
yeah.
said as
And
such, and they made me look foolish.
they burned people last year.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's fair to say, like, okay, it's fair to not have to think about North Carolina football for a little while, right? Like, they had their chance last year and they blew it. But I will say both their quarterbacks that are in contention for that job looked good during their spring game and have, just generally received good reviews. And I think, North Carolina brought in arguably the best or the second best recruiting class in the country last cycle. Like, Mac Brown is still bringing in talent at a high level. They just got a big cornerback transfer from Ohio State a couple weeks ago. Like, North Carolina, to me, is the closest thing on this schedule to a trap game. But even that is at home, right? So it's not, that's still a very winnable game for Miami. And they will probably be favored by at least a touchdown.
Is Brennan Armstrong still at Virginia?
He is.
My eye immediately went to that game. It was a week before Florida State.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Virginia. I mean, they lost their offensive coordinator. I believe he's at Syracuse now. And obviously Tony Elliott is there and is probably not going to run the same offensive system. Now, maybe he plays to Armstrong's strengths, which is to throw the ball 65 times a game. But, we certainly never saw that at Clemson, even when, like, Trevor Lawrence was there. So I'm very interested to see, what Tony Elliott can figure out at Virginia by the time late October runs around.
I mean, if you got that kind of quarterback, like, it would make sense to just let him throw the ball around the yard. He doesn't have Jelani Woods anymore to throw to the tight end. But, things get weird around Halloween. It was a road game, weekend of Halloween, and then you go play Florida State. Yeah. Maybe that's something. But, I mean, you're right. Like, when you look at the schedule, it sets up kind of nicely for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, this should be an automatic 8 wins somewhere on the schedule. And then if you take care of business in a couple of the toss-ups, you're talking about what for, a fairly special season. I mean, Miami, I believe, has won 10 games once in the last 20 years. Like, the bar is pretty low at the moment in terms of recent history. But the bar is raised significantly in terms of just overall confidence in the program, in resources and investment that have gone into the program this offseason. I mean, they stole Clemson's athletic director, for God's sake, and Oregon's football coach and Michigan's offensive coordinator. Like, the investment is there. Are the results going to be there in year one? I mean, I don't think they necessarily have to win 11 games this year for this to be a success, but I do expect them to show quite a bit of progress from where they were last season. And if you look at it like, this FPI total, we'll get out of here on this. FPI has them at 8.5 wins. I think that's a comfortable over for me. I would probably at 9.5. I would feel a little bit less easy about that. But I think this team is getting to 9 wins. It's just a matter of if there's any more of a ceiling to it than that.
That's fair. Yeah, we'll see. Cristobal is a high-profile coach. Like you said, they got a ton of investment in the program. He got some really good coordinators. They got a really good quarterback. It'll be a fun team. Especially,
they have good running back and tight end too. I mean, Jalen Knighton. I mean, who's the Oregon kid that had 1 million all-purpose yards last year? I mean, Jalen Knighton's going to get some run. Will Mallory is one of the best tight ends in the country. He's coming back. I mean, the only thing is they got to find a Charleston Rambo replacement, right? Who just had the best statistical season for a receiver in the history of Miami football last year. Went to the NFL, and so they have to replace him. But all the other pieces are there.
It is helpful to have a guy out wide to throw to. That is helpful for a really good team.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. We'll look forward to it. So we'll get out here on that. Thanks for watching, guys.